This is correct. Who did this?
Will Hunting was 20 years old and lived in a poor neighborhood of Boston. From the outside, nothing suggested that this quiet kid had a rare gift. By day, he worked as a custodian at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His routine was mopping floors, emptying trash, and cleaning the hallways where the brightest students in the country walked by. But behind that ordinary surface was an exceptional mind. Will read anything he could get his hands on: history, law, economics, physics, philosophy. His memory was phenomenal, his intelligence sharp as a blade. And yet no one, not even his friends, truly grasped how far his genius went. One night, as he was finishing his shift, Will noticed a big math problem scrawled on the hallway chalkboard. It was a complex equation, posed as a challenge by Professor Gerald Lambeau, a world-renowned mathematician and Nobel Prize winner.
I also put an advanced Fourier system. I'm hoping that one of you might prove it by the end of the semester.
The professor had told his students that whoever solved the theorem would see their name printed in the university paper, the MIT Tech, a real gateway to academic fame. Students had thrown themselves at the intellectual battle. But Will, who wasn't a student and knew nothing about the contest, stood there staring at the board. His eyes traced the symbols as if they were alive. In a few minutes, he'd memorized the problem. Then, without telling anyone, he headed home. At home, there was no fancy desk or stacks of notebooks. He scribbled on a mirror, wiped it clean with the flat of his hand, and started again and again. After a few hours, he had the solution. The next day, seizing a quiet moment in the hallway, he picked up a piece of chalk and wrote out his full proof on the board. Nobody saw him. When Professor Lambeau discovered a few days later that the problem had been solved, he couldn't believe his eyes. The near-impossible equation was perfectly done.
Jack? Wasn't me.
Who did this? He asked, stunned. The students looked at one another, silent. No one dared claim it. Will didn't try to get noticed. At night, he met up with his lifelong buddies, Chuckie, Billy, and Morgan. Their lives were bars, jokes, and odd jobs. But behind the wisecracks and easygoing front, Will carried a heavy past. An orphan, abused in foster homes, he'd learned early to keep people at arm's length. One night, while they were driving around, Will recognized an old classmate who had bullied him as a kid. Anger flashed hot. He asked Chuckie to pull over and, without thinking, charged the guy.
It's me, Will. Remember, we went to kindergarten together.
A brawl erupted. Will didn't hold back, not until the cops showed up. In his rage, he even swung at an officer. He was arrested on the spot. In his next class, Professor Lambeau put up a new challenge, even tougher than the last. A problem he and his colleagues had spent 2 years solving. He hoped to flush out the mystery solver of the first proof. Meanwhile, Will was arraigned. His rap sheet, assaults, car thefts, did him no favors. The judge, fed up with the repeat offenses, sentenced him to jail. Bail was set at $50,000, impossible money for Will. But Professor Lambeau, convinced this young man was the prodigy he was hunting for, stepped in. He proposed a deal. Will could avoid prison if he accepted 2 conditions. First, he would work with Lambeau regularly on mathematical research. Second, he would attend therapy with a psychologist to learn some self-control. Reluctant but cornered, Will agreed. The math collaboration took off like a dream. Faced with the knottiest equations, Will seemed to play. Where seasoned experts tore their hair out, he found solutions in hours. The professor was floored. Therapy, though, was a disaster. The first psychologist was demolished in minutes. Will had read the man's book the night before and used his own words to box him in. Humiliated, the therapist refused to continue.
Hey, you know something? I can't do this pro bono work anymore. It's not worth it.
The second tried hypnosis. Will, smirking, turned the session into a comedy routine. "You're really hypnotizing me right now?" he cracked, bursting into laughter. Total failure. Desperate, Lambeau called an old college friend, Sean Maguire, now a psychology professor at a small school. Sean was a widower, marked by the loss of his wife, but known for his humanity. Their first meeting was electric. Will scanned the room, made snide remarks about the books, then went for the jugular. Sean's deceased wife. It was the one move that always made people snap, but this time the response was different. Sean, calm at first, finally stood and murmured into Will's ear, "If you ever talk about my wife again, I'll end you."
I'll end you. Got the chief?
Will thought he'd won. To Lambeau's surprise, though, Sean agreed to keep going. At the second session, Sean took Will to a park. He let him talk for a minute, then cut him off with a gesture. Quietly, he said, "You can recite books by heart. You know everything about wars, poets, painters, but you've never set foot outside Boston. You've never held a woman so close you were scared to lose her. You think you know it all, but you haven't lived yet. You're a terrified kid hiding behind his intellect." For the first time, Will had no comeback. Meanwhile, Will had met Skylar, a med student at Harvard. Bright, funny, full of life. She was instantly drawn to Will's wit and intelligence. They started seeing each other regularly. But Will, true to form, refused to tell her the truth about his past. He made up an imaginary family with 12 brothers.
I have 12 big brothers.
You do not
I
have
swear
12
to God. I
brothers.
swear to God.
Skylar could feel he was hiding something, but she loved him too much to push. The sessions with Sean continued, some silent, some stormy. Sean talked about his late wife, their memories, the pain of loss, and the beauty of honest love. Will listened, unsettled. Little by little, he opened up. He spoke about Skylar, about his fears. "She seems perfect to me. I'm scared to show her my flaws. I'm scared she'll leave." Sean answered, "Love is accepting the imperfections." My wife snored like a freight train. And you know what? I still miss it. The words stuck with Will. Still, when Skylar asked him one day to come with her to California, Will exploded. He shouted, threw his secrets in her face, that he was an orphan, that he'd been beaten, burned, humiliated.
What do you want to know? What? That I don't have 12 brothers? That I'm a fucking orphan? No.
Then he slammed the door, Skylar in tears, got on the plane without him. From there, everything unraveled. With Professor Lambeau, Will turned insolent, refusing to keep up the research. Lambeau lost his temper, convinced Will was throwing away his gift. Chuckie, his most loyal friend, tried to shake him. "What do you think I want for myself? Spend my life on job sites? Every day I hope I pull up to your place and you're not there? Because it'll mean you finally got out. If you sit here and waste it, you're not just ruining your life, you're burning ours too." The words hit Will like a punch. One night, while Sean and Lambeau were tearing into each other over Will's future, Will walked into the office. He'd heard the fight and seen that Sean was in his corner. For the first time, he felt an adult truly believed in him. Sean opened Will's record, photos and reports of the abuse he'd endured as a child. Will turned away, ashamed. Sean rested a hand on his shoulder. "None of this is your fault." Will looked down. "I know." Sean repeated again and again. "It's not your fault." The walls Will had built his whole life crumbled. The tears came.
It's not your fault.
He collapsed into Sean's arms, sobbing like a child. For the first time, he allowed himself to be vulnerable. With Sean's support, Will accepted a prestigious job at a company on Lambeau's recommendation. But deep down, he knew it wasn't what he wanted. At their final session, Sean told him he was going to travel, take some time for himself. He handed Will his number and wished him luck.
Hey. Good luck, son.
On his birthday, Will's friends gave him an old, patched-up car. Will thanked them, then made a decision. He drove to Sean's place and slipped an envelope into the mailbox. Inside, a simple note. "Professor Lambeau, I'm sorry. I'm not taking the job. I'm going to find the girl I love." Then he climbed into the car and headed west for California. The next morning, as always, Chuckie stopped by to pick up Will for work. For the first time, his friend wasn't there. He smiled. His old dream had finally come true. As for Sean, when he found the letter, he understood that the fight had been worth it. Will wasn't a prisoner of his demons anymore. He had chosen love, freedom, and most of all, he had chosen to live.